Hello everybody, this is Fray. Welcome to a new audio. Copyright 2006 WCReplays.com. In this audio, actually, before I say anything else, get this audio paused at the 2-minute mark, 1x speed. Go with one of the observer's views, because I don't feel like having Fog of War off, and I want to be able to talk about the nasty stuff that a human player can pull on you. But mainly we're going to be looking in Fury's base, even though you want to look at the observer point of view or just have the Fog of War off. Either one is fine. This game is going to be a fast expanding human versus with mass dragonhawks as his primary thing, although there is going to be a lot of forking around and a good bit of strategy play in this matchup. It is also a very, very close game, unlike a lot of the other games that I have done. So I'm not even going to tell you who wins it, but I will be going over some of the things that the undead player does right, as well as some of the things that he does wrong. But at any rate, this game is pretty much, you don't know who's going to win until like the last 30 seconds of it. So, and it's about 30 minutes long. So let's get it rolling. We're going to be at the 2-minute mark. Observer point of view. That's my birds. Meet Dewey and Jonah. Hopefully they'll shut up soon. Anyway, 2-minute mark. Unpause in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Unpause. Okay, you get the undead with the typical early altar build. That is something that you absolutely have to do. Typically with the Death Knight, in order, I don't know any other way of doing it other than with the Death Knight, in order to harass the human while he's fast expanding. Simply because that fast expansion is just so powerful. Let's see. I want to make a note about the way the players are spawned here. It's definitely disadvantageous to the undead player because his main base, the distance between his main and the human player's natural is particularly long, so that means he's going to have a long way to walk if he ever wants to harass or attack it. On the contrary, the human player can get to the undead natural very easily. Okay, let's talk about what you want to do when you are harassing a human that is trying to fast expand. You want to try and still creeps. Occasionally that will go wrong, as it just did for Fury. But that's okay, as long as you are able to slow your opponent down a bit. And the second thing that you want to do is try and pick off his militia and his peasants as they go back to being in peasant form. One of my favorite little easy micro tricks for dealing with peasants is just whenever you summon 2 skeletons, just grab them and target them towards like a non-militia peasant. When you do that, you're creating basically a lot of work for the human player in order to keep that peasant alive, because the skeletons move a lot faster and they deal normal damage, so they actually kill the peasant pretty damn quick. And usually, even if the human player manages to kill off the skeletons, you will have brought the peasant down into coiling range. Alright, now at this point, the Death Knight has 2 low hit points and he's got to run away. On Lost Temple and maps with a healing fountain, other maps with a healing fountain, you can get away with being a little bit more aggressive with your Death Knight. Normally you wouldn't want to let him drop to this low of a health, because you're going to want to be able to keep harassing. Another thing that you normally might want to do, but you can't do here, is bring your ghouls in and keep attacking his expansion while it's building. However, because of the spawn locations here, it's just too darn far for Fury. He doesn't want to have to run his ghouls all the way across the map only to get to what very well may be a nicely towered up expansion. One of the things that you've got to watch out for, 2 things that you got to watch out for, both of which Rain is doing to Fury here, is a little bit earlier when Fury was healing at the Fountain of Health, he went and attacked one of the creeps to piss him off. And the other thing they're going to do is, once they get their fast expansion up, they're going to go after your base. So it's probably not a great idea to have your hero and ghouls separate right at this point of the game like Fury does. As a result, he's going to have a pretty hard time in this battle. However, he manages to keep it alive, and actually thanks to a slight mistake from Rain, well, you'll see. But let's look at what's going on here. The number one thing that Fury is going to do is he's going to work really hard to keep his ghouls alive, both microing them back away from damage and using coil to heal those. This is actually a secondary concern next to saving your acolytes. At this point, his tier 2 is finished, so he's going to be able to rebuild them. And if he lost ghouls trying to save acolytes, what would happen is that he wouldn't be able to deal enough damage to all those water elementals and footmen, and it would take him a very long time to get the human player out of his base. There's basically a few options that you have when you're in this situation dealing with this push. The easiest way is to try and surround the Archmage and just force him to town portal, but if that doesn't work, as long as you keep your ghouls alive and you've built enough of them, you can just mostly let them beat on the footmen and the water elementals and keep them alive, and you should do okay. Rain just lost his Archmage, and that's going to help Fury out quite a bit. Without that, he would be kind of screwed because he only got a couple of peasant kills, and after that, the human was able to fast expand, and he hasn't had to tower up much because he knows he's got just the sheer distance on the map protecting him. Anyway, whenever you're facing off against a fast expanding opponent, unless you have done like really major damage to that fast expansion, you think you can get to destroyers really quickly and take everything down, what you've got to do is counter expand. So notice as soon as Fury drove the human player out of his base, he immediately went and crept out his expansion, and now he's starting up a mine. That's before he built his slaughterhouse, that's before he started his tier 3 tech, that's before he started getting his lich. So that is of critical importance because you're already getting badly out-resourced, and you need to start catching up. Now, he was able to get his Death Knight to level 3. Very, very good thing that, because it allows you to get some free peasant kills, which will further slow down your opponent's lumber, which is, since he's had to spend so much money getting the expansion up and building the extra peasants for that, he's going to have plenty of gold, but not a whole lot of lumber. So basically, if you slow down his lumber production, you can prevent him from taking advantage of the gold. Harassing with the Death Knight like that had a secondary effect as well, and that is keeping the human's attention distracted from this expansion that he's trying to get up. Most human players are, as soon as they kind of get their expansion solidified and they're going for tier 2, they will immediately scout and see if you're getting an expansion up, because they know if they can take that expansion down, they've pretty much got the game won. So really focus a lot of your attention. I think it's really best to use a Blight Skull and build a couple of towers when you're doing this expansion. Fury manages to get away with it here with just a Necropolis and the gold mine, and as well having 4 acolytes ready to go to heal it up, because Rain very nearly took it down, and that would be a problem. Mostly, once again, this is mostly just ghouls that are attack moving. There's not a whole lot of fancy stuff going on in this. He could have probably gone for some surrounds, but in this situation, he really needed to just start dealing as much damage as quickly as possible to Rain's army, so that Rain would just have to kind of back off. Wasting the time and damage to get some surrounds on footmen and stuff like that probably wouldn't have been good. And going after the Archmage, as long as he's paying attention and you don't have any cold towers around, it's actually not that easy to get a surround on an Archmage. So main thing, once again, when you're fighting off a human that's trying to harass one of your bases, a lot of times the best thing to do is just let your ghouls attack, but keep them alive. If you start letting him pick off ghouls, you're going to have a harder time ever driving him out of your base, because he'll keep popping out new water elementals and things like that. And B, you're going to have lumber problems later in the game, or you're going to have gold problems because you're going to have to rebuild your ghouls. All right, so Fury has gone to harass the human player. He's not going to really get any kills out of here, and this seems like, in a way, like he's just putting up needless risk. However, it's critical at this point that he not allow the human to go creep, because anyone that has ever faced off against a high-level Mountain King knows that it is truly miserable. He needs to have his ghouls on lumber for the moment. He doesn't want to bring those along for the attack, because he is going to be hitting tier 3 soon, and he's going to want the lumber to be able to build his tier 3 units. So really all he's doing here, actually at the cost of one of his town portals, is wasting some of the human player's time and not letting him creep. Now in the lower right hand corner of the map, Rain did something that I think is very clever. He without using his heroes or any of his army, and while he was still skirmishing with Fury, he set up an expansion with just his footmen, and I think, I'm not sure if militia can actually reach that point on the map or not. I think they can, just barely. But Fury is not going to find that expansion for a very, very, very long time. And it's one of those things where if you can mostly keep the undead player distracted, this is a little advice for those humans out there. It is quite possible to set up an expansion in an obscure corner of the map, and they may not find it till it's way, way too late. What we got going here is another creep jack, or not another, excuse me, simply just a creep jack from the undead player. These are absolutely critical. Scout with your skeletons, just guess if you have to, but at this point in the game where you're waiting for tier 3 so that you can get your destroyers out, you have got to harass the human while he's creeping. You do not want him getting like a level 3 or 4 Mountain King. You don't want him getting a lot of health items on that Mountain King either, because that's going to allow him to make your life utterly miserable. So just remember that, and do your best to play very, very aggressively against the human player during tier 2. Even though it seems kind of dangerous, most of your problems can be solved with micro or just blowing your town portal. But you really, really need to keep him busy instead of letting him creep and try to keep up with him, because you creeping is not going to do you as much good as him creeping at this point. Okay, now what Fury is trying to do at this point, now that he's got tier 3 up, he's going for destroyers out of 2 slaughterhouses, and the goal here is that destroyers, being as they deal magic damage, can actually take down towers very, very, very quickly. So he wants to go into the human players. He's actually going to choose to go into the main, but hitting the expansion works as well, either one. And he's going to try and knock down all the towers and do some serious damage to the human army. Often an undead player, now that you've got the expansion up, can win the game at this point, but holy shit, that is a lot of dragonhawks. Fury knows that he can't fight that many at points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's almost 10 against 4 destroyers. There's no way in hell that he's going to fight that. I think a lot of the reason that he is so viciously outnumbered at this point is because of that second expansion that Rain has up in the lower right-hand corner of the map. So I don't know. Obviously, Fury doesn't realize where that expansion is. He may have figured out that his opponent had one at this point. So basically, what he did is he just blitzed the Archmage, Nova Coil, and attacked it with all his units, hoping to force a town portal, which he succeeded in doing.